Hello, hello. All right. Getting close to going live. Well, the stream is live, but getting close to actually starting the show. Starting the show is Ed McMahon. No, not Ed McMahon. The heck was the guy? Ed Sullivan. Ed Sullivan was a little before my time. Not much, but a little. We have a show for you tonight. We'd like to welcome the Beatles. Do do do. Da, 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 da. So tonight we get to talk about two games that happened this past week. And I think it's getting pretty close enough for government work, so I am going to go ahead and stop this music. And then I am going to go ahead and pull up that faceplate. All right. Everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is DM Gallibond, and welcome to Tales from the Table for Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2019. As you can see here, we have the image up from my Saturday game, which is the history of D&D game. I am going to go ahead and, just since it might be a little hard to read on the screen, I'm going to paste in the artwork and attribution into the chat for anyone who is either on the stream live or comes back and watches later. This image is called Steampunk Clockwork Time, and it was found on Pixabay. And it's created by somebody who apparently does not have an account there anymore, but we do have their attribution. So hopefully, if they knew who they are, they realize we're trying to do our best to give them credit for the artwork. Seriously, if anybody knows who created this art, I would be thrilled if they could get that person in touch with me so I could give them proper credit and proper attribution instead of just a number from the Pixabay account on this. So anyway, the history of D&D game. We had our official session number 2 this past week on Saturday, the 19th of October. This was the first time we had all of the players that are registered and have lasted through the fits and starts that we have had for this game. Um, we recruited actually something like close to 10 hardy souls that made characters for this game. And in the end, only 3 of them actually have showed up to play. So Don't know what happened to the rest of them, but maybe they thought that jumping into the Wayback Machine and going back to the original rules of D&D was actually too daunting a task, and that maybe not what they had thought they were signing up for. But this is an original D&D game, and we are still recruiting for this game. You can find the game under the history of D&D on Roll20. And we hope to grow our player base and perhaps have a fourth player for our next session on October 26th. Someone did reach out and say they wanted to join the game. That person's schedule and mine just have not clicked. I'm hoping later tonight after the stream I'll be able to get in touch with them, and we'll see if they really have the uh, well, the reliability, let's say, that I am looking for in a player to show up and play the game on a regular basis. All right. The session began right after the gambling of the previous week. All of the players had met several members of Village Council. Those members are Elmo, Tuck, and Macheath the Dwarf. They also met Zert, who is a woodsman who was giving a report to the council members about the bandits at the ruins of the old moat house. Zert's also staying upstairs at the Inn of the Welcome Wench, where our players have been so far. Devlin and John, the two that were involved in the gambling with Spugnor, came out and they spied Siren, who is the third PC sitting at a table, looking rather out of place. Wendell the drover and Furnock the merchant's guard, who had been in on the early rounds of the gambling, they were off at another table having drinks. So Devlin and John introduced themselves to Siren, and the nucleus of the party was formed. So the PCs started talking over what they had been discussing with the village council members, talking over their plans for going out and investigating these bandits. And they couldn't help but noticing that Wendell, the caravan driver, and Furnock, the merchant's guard, were trying really hard and failing to look like they were not paying attention. Clearly, they were hanging on every word that the party was saying, but they were trying their best not to look like they were eavesdropping. So Devlin and John stepped over and started talking to those two. Wendell, the wagon driver, said that as soon as they heard them mention bandits, they got very scared because the road is so um, the road is so uh, treacherous. Hey, Gonti, good to see you. Thank you for dropping by the stream tonight. So after they began talking with this Wendell character a little bit, they realized that he was full of BS. He was trying to say that he had some knowledge about these bandits because friends of his who were on other caravans had talked about being waylaid by the bandits in this particular area. And the more he talked, the deeper a hole he dug for himself, and the more suspicious the PCs became of him. So Siren snuck off to find Zert, the woodsman, and let him know that he found a couple of suspicious characters downstairs. Um, Zert said he had a plan, said that they should not do anything rash, and that he would uh, take care of everything. He thought he could probably get the caravan merchant, the lead merchant of the caravan, to wait in town an extra day, and that would give them time to go off, investigate, and hopefully in those investigations they might find out whether these two shady characters actually had anything to do with the bandits or not. So um, Sirnan came back downstairs, and then Devlin snuck off to talk with Spugnor, who was the gambler. And Spugnor said that Spugnor said that he had only met Wendell and Furnock when the caravan had left Hosland, the human city on the coast. So he hadn't known them very long, but they seemed like nice enough fellows. And oh, he was now very worried because if they were suspicious, he might have to watch his gold a little more closely. Um, so uh, the three PCs continued talking to those two, tried to ply them with drinks, but after a while it seemed like they realized that maybe they were saying more than they should. So they decided to leave the common room of the inn, and the PCs, acting on Zert's advice, did not press the issue. They let them go. Um, Besides, they had one more errand they needed to do that night, which was to go over to the trader and try to get Devlin's sword out of Hawk. Um, he spent literally all of his gold equipping himself, and so he pawned a sword to the trader in order to get 10 gold so he could go to the tavern. Um, because he is playing a original D&D thief, which would morph into the rogue character, and he's somebody that has always been a bit of a gambler and trying to um, do a hustle on the side and whatnot. So that's how he created his character, and he has sort of imagined that his character would, just sort of be very be um, very much a risk taker, and would risk so much as to even pawn his own sword in order to have gold if he thought he might be able to win money gambling or make a fast buck through some sort of sleight of hand or something like that. Uh, so kudos to the player for really getting into it that much. So they went off to the trader, and of course, he had been warned by his friend who worked at the inn that the trader was sort of a shady character. And the trader did indeed start to fast talk and said, "Oh, yeah, that I gave you 14 gold for that sword. So I think maybe you should give me 17 gold to get it back." And and Devlin was having none of that. He immediately um, went into a bartering mode, and he rolled so well on his bartering skill, which is from the first edition skill set, that he wound up talking the merchant down, and he only had to pay the merchant 10 gold, which is exactly what the merchant had given him to pawn his sword in the first place. So he wound up coming out dead even without having to spend more gold. Plus, of course, he had gotten the 20 gold the week before that he had won gambling from Spugnor. So now he is a little bit ahead of the game and has some gold jingling in his pocket. Um, they went back to the inn. They spent the night there, and then the next morning, they went off with Zert to Elmo's family farm. And when they were there, they met Elmo's parents, and they found out that Elmo's full name is Elmernon, um, but he just goes by Elmo for short. And they saw Mac, the dwarf that they had met the night before, and Mac informed them that the village elder had indeed convinced the lead merchant to spend an extra day in town uh, due to the fact that bandits had been spotted and that a team of experienced adventurers were being dispatched to deal with them. So this A was a delay tactic for the caravan, and B also sort of bait to see if the two shady characters would tip their hand and maybe try to come after the PCs and reveal that they are in fact part of the bandit group or not. So the three PCs, the two NPCs ride off. They spent a few hours heading up the road towards the um, old moat house. They passed by several game trails where Zert dismounted and went over and showed how the bandits, when they move, they always go in single file. That way, because of the fact they're in single file, it's hard to tell exactly how many of them there are in any one group. Um, so there may be 4, there may be 20, there may be anything in between. But because they walk, their boots are all in single file. You don't know how many you might encounter. When they reached just after mid morning, they came inside of the moat house itself. Zert told them that based on his observations, the morning patrol would already have left, and he was not sure how many people would be inside the moat house. Uh, and he asked the PCs, as did Elmo. The NPCs left it up to the PCs. What do you want to do? Do you want to try to go in and explore, or do you want to try to hang back and wait for that patrol to return and see what their condition is? See how many of them there are. Maybe we can try ambushing them. The PCs decided they would like to wait for the patrol, and that's when our session ended. So next week, we will find the party starting the session, waiting to see this patrol coming back and seeing if they can do anything um, to possibly get the better of them. Um, the next game is going to be on Saturday at noon. That'll be October 26th. And that is noon Eastern time. And it will be right here on this very Twitch channel. So you can come by on Saturdays and see it, or you can come by at your leisure during the week and watch the replay of the stream. So that's my Saturday game. And like I said, that's the first edition game. It's just kind of getting underway. Um, as these things tend to do, it's a little bit slow out of the gate, but that's okay because now we're going to talk a little bit about our Sunday game. And um, for those of you watching the stream later, the viewer Gonti that we have is one of my players from that very Sunday game. Hi, Gonti. Um, and again, for anybody that will be coming by the stream and wants to know that we are giving proper attribution, that is the attribution for this image. This image comes from Pixabay. Uh, it is called Astral Traveler, and it's one of the many images created by an artist who goes by Dark Souls One. Um, he really has a lot of cool stuff that's up there. I I do know it's a he because I've actually seen the profile and I've seen his name, and I keep remembering to put his name here, and I haven't done it yet, so I will need to go do that uh, at some point so I can give him better credit. But if you follow the URL, you can go to his page on Pixabay. You can tell him you like his work if you like it, and you can see some of the other artwork he has done. Now, this game is called The Walker of Waterdeep. It's a fifth edition D&D game, and it's inspired by the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which came out in 2018. And this game began in Waterdeep with a party that's now 4th level. As we said last time, they lived through a Githyanki attack, and they're starting to put the pieces together in the aftermath of that. This week continued that this week continued that effort. Uh, the first thing we did is we caught our player Chris, who plays Gallibond, up with the events from last week. Poor Chris was having all kinds of problems with his internet, and they still aren't completely solved because his Discord is a little choppy. But he was at least able to join us and participate in the game this week. Um, Galabar, we worked him into the party, and he has a nice connection with Xandri, who is Gonti's character. Their backgrounds kind of have a little dovetail. And there's an NPC named Dorifil, who was a trainer in the gladiatorial arena where the two player characters know each other from, and that trainer has been kidnapped by the Githyanki. Apparently, it's because he's one of the best weapon masters in all of Waterdeep, and speculation is that the you know mind zappy Gith may want to try to convince or perhaps dominate the mind of this weapon master and get him to train their lackeys in the ways, all the martial weapons and everything. So it sounds like they may be trying to build up some sort of an army, which is not good news for anybody. When the Gith Yankee by themselves are bad enough, but Gith Yankee with an army could be really bad news. So Galabar and Xandri agreed that it might be a good idea to help raise the morale of the people by holding some sort of exhibition charity match where the two of them, one of them as the former champion of the arena, the other one as the current champion of the arena, would sort of battle out. They could raise money, they could have people donate supplies for the rebuilding of Waterdeep in the wake of this devastating attack, and it might make everybody feel a little bit better. So Galabar talked to several people in the city. Among them is the Open Lord, Laral Silverhand. Another one is a priest of Moradin, whose name is Brother Nenarv Bronzehide, and a cleric at the Temple of Tyr, whose name is Father Litholdus de Grey. And all of those NPCs thought it was a good idea. Brother Bronzebeard seemed to take it the most enthusiastically because he thought it might be a good idea to get out and thump some of those priests of Tyr in good friendly competition because, well, a good stout dwarf is obviously going to be able to thump any puny human in a test of strength. It's just only natural. Later, they ran into an old acquaintance of the party, Volothamp Gedarm, and they told him about the idea. And in true Volo fashion, um, he began waxing poetic about what a wonderful opportunity this would be for the city. And he seems to have just taken the bit and started to run with it. So the party's like, okay, fine, you go organize that. We'll get on with the business of trying to figure out how to rebuild. Meanwhile, Xandri was at the Temple of Sune, where she has a very good friend, and she had also taken Dorifil's training sword that she found at the arena, and hey, uh, Gani, it's your character. I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you be the one who decides uh, how you share your friendship with any NPCs, with other people. Um, so, uh, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Xandri spent time with her friend there, had Dorifil's training sword, and took it to one of the priests to have that training sword scryed to see if they could find out where Dorifil was. Um, the ritual went off without a hitch. However, the cleric that was doing the scrying determined that the owner of the sword is beyond a barrier that prevents magical scrying. This matches with some of the stories they had heard from Blackstaff Tower and the Order of Mages and the Order of Mages and Protectors, who had found some items that belonged to Githyanki from a an astral vessel that they had captured, and all of the scrying that they had done on Gith who had survived and managed to return wound up meeting with that same resistance. It seemed like there was some sort of barrier blocking the magical scrying into that. So they seem to be actively trying to prevent people from finding out where they are. The Githyanki, that is, seem to be doing that. Xandri was very distressed that the Temple of Sune had lost a number of members. She has developed a very deep attachment to this friend of hers at the temple, and she wanted to know whether there was anything she could do to possibly help them, perhaps by even taking some sort of vows and an order with the temple. And there was some intense discussion. And in the end of that discussion, Xandri decided that when she is next able, so whenever the DM allows them to raise a level, she would like to take a level of paladin and begin working her way up as a paladin in the Church of Sune. So she has that now in her future. Oyahusa, who is our monk character, he went and met with his Xanathar friend Hargaff, uh, and Hargraff expressed his relief at seeing the monk again. Oyo asked Hargraff for news, and the man confirmed that their mutual acquaintance Zona, who is a member of the Zentarum, has fled the city on her own. Um, During the Githyanki attack, the Xanathar took the opportunity to dispatch several of his uh, most lethal assassins and their groups of their teams of specialists. They went around to known Zentarum safe houses, and basically they helped the Githyanki raise the body count by dispatching all of the Zentarum leadership within the city that they could. So now the Zentarum are pretty much broken in Waterdeep. They're scattered. The ones that are left are pretty much inconsequential and don't have a network uh, of contacts within the city that they can really organize anything. And the Xanathar has really exerted his firm control on the underworld of the city. Um, and Oyahusa, for better or worse, decided that might be that might make it an opportunity for the party to actually go and talk to the Xanathar. Um, the Xanathar had been observing the party. There was no out and out really confrontations with the Xanathar Guild. There was more. The party had been on the trail of a treasure that the Xanathar wanted. The Zentarum also wanted that treasure, and in the end, the Githyanki took that treasure. So the Xanathar, according to Hargaff, really feels like the Githyanki owe him. Um, because since this treasure was embezzled and is stolen property, The Xanathar believes that anything that somebody comes by ill-gotten means within Waterdeep is quite naturally his property. So if the Githyanki stole the embezzled gold, they actually stole from the Xanathar. And Beholder don't care uh, how many Gith there are, don't care what kind of astro vessels they have. You steal from him, you're going to pay. And so he's very, very angry with the Githyanki. Now, Oyahusa's ploy could go one way, could go the other, because there's rumors that an NPC that the party had been working for, who was kidnapped, some people are putting out rumors that she might have been in league with the Githyanki. So they've got to be a little careful about how they approach that. Um, Hargaff is going to make some discreet inquiries through his network, try to find out if it seems like the Xanathar might be amenable to talking with the party and not simply wanting to uh, take out some of his frustration on them. And if things seem clear, Hargaff will do what he can to set up a meeting. Now, of course, the rest of the party, when they found out that Oyahusa had done this, they were understandably a little bit taken aback. In the end, most of them, except for Thardrum, the dwarf, um, were amenable to at least going and meeting with the Xanathar if this meeting could be arranged. Um, the dwarf was like, "No, I'm not going to do it. You guys can go. I won't stop you, but I'm not going to do it." And so clearly, he's not going to have any of that. So we'll see. Uh, at least he has succeeded in my favorite thing on this side of the DM screen, which he has split the party. Woohoo! Um, at least for a brief time, that will happen. There were the wheels of justice, um, Waterdeep style, that is, began turning, and we followed up on last week's news that there was going to be a formal inquest by the Masked Lords of Waterdeep. They held that inquest, and as we found out last time, Jarlaxle Bayenray, who's serving as sort of the legal representative and counsel of the parties or of the PCs, he has invoked his right as a diplomat to go before the initial inquest on the party's behalf and request from the Masked Lords all of their questions in writing. That never even got a chance to happen because while the obsequious little speaker was going through all of the complaints, the hall where they were meeting was invaded. Yeah, that's not a wrong word to use. Was invaded by four beads of force, each of which contained three people. Um, those three people were of strange dress, strange origin, and strange race. And they announced that they were from some place called Ravnica, which they believe is a far superior civilization to the little backwater town of Waterdeep. Um, they also said that the Githyanki had set in motion a 1001 day clock that was going to result in somebody being able to unlock some information out of the hidden memories of Tasenda Verlassen, who is this NPC that they kidnapped. Turns out that Tasenda Verlassen was the architect of the precognitive uh, investigation force that the Azorius Senate has, which means that they are able to detect crimes before they happen. They know who's going to commit them, when they're going to be committed, and where they're going to be committed, and they can go arrest people based on that evidence before the crimes are ever committed. Um, because Tasenda was instrumental in starting that, she carries around the knowledge of how to do that. And they began to see a shadow coming over her, a future shadow coming over her, which meant that somebody was going to be able to force that knowledge out of her and use it against Ravnica, not only against Ravnica and its plane, but against all civilizations across all planes. Now, perhaps that force is the Githyanki themselves, perhaps it's somebody or something else. We don't know at this point. All we know is that the Githyanki are the ones who attacked, and the Githyanki have Tasenda now, or they were the ones that took her out of the city. Presumably, they have her now. So, um, the implication was that the Ravnicans would offer to take the PCs because they had worked closely with Tasenda, would take them out of this primitive, backward civilization in Waterdeep to their advanced civilization in Ravnica, and they would train them and give them the tools and the ability to complete a mission that they seem to think is vital, which said mission will wind up making sure, in their words, that nobody can use Tassinda Verlassen's memories against anyone. So now, what exactly they think that means, I don't know. But some of the PCs do not think that's a very encouraging uh, thing. And they also are very incensed, as are most of the people in Waterdeep, that anyone would think Waterdeep is a backwards town. Um, it's like these are the sophisticated New Yorkers, flying in on a Learjet and going to um, a little village that is out in the jungles of Vietnam and saying, "Oh, how primitive you all are! Oh, aren't the rice paddies so cute?" Um, eh, you know, and the people, you know, the people know how to deal with mosquitoes. They'll just wait around for a couple of mosquitoes to bite the New Yorkers, let them get malaria, and then they won't have to deal with them anymore. But so perhaps the Ravnicans are in the same guilty of the same type of hubris. Perhaps they aren't, but they do seem to have information that nobody in Waterdeep knew about this Tassinda Verlassen person. Um, at least that's the information they claim they have. So you don't. Right now, everybody's sort of up in the air of what is the real story. At any rate, the party said, "No, I don't think we are going to accompany you peacefully." At which point the Ravnican said, "All right, we will take you." At which point the Black Staff called in a number of her wizards um, to help deal with the situation, and a magical battle erupted in the courtroom. Now, it seems from what the party was able to tell as they started trying to make their escape out of the courtroom, it seems that they're trying not to really, both sides are trying not to kill each other. The water deep, I should say, the Blackstaff Tower mages are casting spells which just make um, the Ravnikins disappear when they land. The Ravnikins, for their part, are casting spells that make the Blackstaff Tower mages fall silent and quit moving for their part. And then when the Waterdeep warrior, or I'm sorry, when the Ravnican warriors are getting into the act, they are very clearly using the flat side of their blades to whack people on the head and knock them out, as opposed to trying to separate their heads from their shoulders at the neck. Well, as I said, the party did a skills challenge to try to escape. Unfortunately, they failed the skills challenge. And at as soon as they failed the skills challenge, we ran out of time for the session. So on our next session, which will be on the 27th of October, we will pick up with a battle. Um, as the uh, as the party tries to fight their way out of the courtroom. Uh, Now they know that there's this other big magical battle going on inside the. I should say they're trying to get out of the courthouse. There's another battle happening inside the courtroom between the different wizards on both sides, and depending on how that goes, they might wind up either getting some help if the Waterdeep side wins, or they might wind up seeing their enemies get some reinforcements if the Ravnigan side wins. Who knows how that's going to turn out? We will just have to see how the dice fall next week. All right, so that's the recap of the two sessions. Um, I think we actually have a couple of viewers here. All right. So let's see. Conti and all right. I'm not sure who else is there, but does anyone have a specific question about either of the games uh, that we mentioned tonight? Gonti says that from a drama standpoint, she doesn't know if she wants the party to get escape or get caught. Well, as a DM, I have made up contingencies for both. Um, and we'll see if those contingencies actually cover what happens, or if the party does something completely unexpected and I wind up having to come up with something on the fly during the game, which, you know, D&D players are famous for doing that. You think, okay, there's a fork in the road, and instead of taking the fork, they turn it into a spoon, and they do something completely different. So, all right. Any blam, bust through the wall. F your always. Okay. Well, all right. I guess there's no questions. So, oops, sorry about that. This ran a little bit longer than I expected that it would. So I am going to go ahead and sign off if there's not any other questions. All right. Once again, I have been DM Gallibond. This has been Tales from the Table. We are here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and we talk a little bit about both games. As I said, both the games are on this Twitch channel, one at Saturday at noon Eastern Time, the other one Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If anyone would like to follow along, that is great. And we are still recruiting for more players for the Saturday game. So, everyone, take care. Have a wonderful week. May you all roll lots of critical hits, unless you are playing in my games. Then I want all your critical hits to come to me. All right, everyone, take care, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.